Let us make our future now, and let us make our dreams tomorrow's reality. There's a certain feeling in the air when now, right now, doesn't just feel like a moment, but an opportunity. There's a charge, an electricity, a tangible importance of the present. In the world of higher education, we are at that moment. Today's students are transforming into the thinkers, artists, engineers, teachers, and leaders of tomorrow. Right now, we are witnessing the reinvention of what's possible. Ellucian lives at the intersection of technology and education. We understand universities need to adapt not yearly or even each semester, but continually. It's not enough to be a campus of the future. We empower campuses to be future forward. And nobody has more experience helping institutions transform than Ellucian. How will we get there? Together. With solutions that meet you where you are. Solutions that accelerate a smarter, stronger tomorrow. Solutions that enable your strategy no matter how it evolves. Working side by side, Ellucian helps you plan, implement, operate, and optimize your technology. We support you so you can better engage your students, alumni, faculty, and staff. With Ellucian's ERP and student information system at the core, your entire campus ecosystem becomes cloud-powered and more open, agile, and efficient. Actionable data and insights flow freely to help you make smarter, more informed decisions. Ellucian is on a mission to empower every institution to unlock its full potential. We've been dedicated to higher education and higher education only for more than 50 years. And that expertise means you get the best partner with the deepest understanding of higher education and how to solve its unique challenges. Every day, we empower more than 20 million students and 2,700 higher education institutions around the world, with no plans of slowing down. The future of education is now, and we're ready to get started. Because while good things come to those who wait, great things are built by those who don't.
And just like you, the Myers-Briggs Company stands for people. We believe in the possibilities they shape, the outcomes they work toward, the relationships they hope to build. And having worked with millions of curious minds determined to be their best, we know what it takes to make the ideal real. Whether developing more empathy and authenticity in leaders, or helping opposites complement, not contradict. Let's continue to build upon insights that lead to action. The Myers-Briggs Company.
Hello, my name is Todd Gray. I'm the Director of Safety and Emergency Services for the 16 colleges of the Kentucky Community and Technical College System, with the administrative offices located in Versailles, Kentucky, just outside of Lexington. It is quite the privilege to have this opportunity to give my presentation. Thanks to Ann and all those involved at the CCA conference. This is, again, a privilege for me to share my information, to share my ideals. And with my topic of creating a safer, more resilient college community campus, I hope that some of these ideals that I come across with, at least one or two, will spark something for you to take back to your college. Now, certainly, I'm not going to be able to cover everything, and there's just as many opinions on campus safety as there are individuals that talk about it. So everyone has their own opinions, and hopefully what I can bring to you today is something, again, something small, maybe a few things that you can take back with you. I'm going to be looking at it from a very, very high level, looking down very broad. I won't go into great specifics or details, but I want to give you some fundamental starting points. Whether you're at the beginning stages of a safety and security program or plan for your campus, or if you maybe already have a robust plan. So that's what we want to talk about for the next little bit. So let's just go ahead and we'll get right into the presentation. As I said, I'm with the administrative offices, which are not listed here, it's not pinpointed, but it is near Bluegrass, near the central part of Kentucky and Versailles. But we do have 16 colleges across the state with multiple campuses at each college. A wide variety of campus settings and venues from urban to rural areas. So we have a little bit of everything. And when we're talking about creating these safer, resilient college campuses, you have to look at the settings. You have every one of them are a little different. They all have their own approaches, and they all have a starting point. And again, I just want to make sure that we understand that what I'm going to talk about today is based on my years of experience as that campus administrator, through research, through my dealings as a retired Lexington, Kentucky firefighter, putting all these applications into process for safety and security. And hopefully, again, it will benefit you in some point that we can pull something out and take back with you and use it with your committees. So with that, what I have here is 4 basic areas that I would like to cover. Again, we're not going to go into great specifics on one, but you have to have a starting point. In many cases with our 16 colleges, their organization can be just a little bit separate from, they handle their own budgets, so their organization might be a little different from here to there. Their security and safety force might be a little different. The way they look at committees will be named differently or comprised of different members. So when we're looking at the overall view of even within my 16 colleges that I assist, the starting points are different. As we mentioned, some are just really getting in a robust safety program. I mean, they've done things, but they're wearing many hats, whereas others already have several people as security. They may have these committees in place, and they have a strong background. So whether you fall in the low, the high end, or in between, doesn't matter. We're going to cover some stuff here to hopefully, again, something you can take back. So with those 4 areas that I want to talk about, the first one is that campus assessment. So what do you have on your campus, and what do you need? We're going to talk about that for just a little bit. Then we're going to talk about the understanding all your regulatory requirements from a safety security perspective, and the creation and upkeep of all those critical safety plans and programs. Third topic that I want to hit will be that appropriate management of critical infrastructure. That critical infrastructure, again, being you're looking at door access controls, your guards, your security cameras. We'll touch on that. And then finally, we're going to talk about having that vision. We'll break down that vision into short, medium, and long-range planning. You have to have that kind of planning in place to move forward. So we're going to hit those 4 areas, and we're going to talk about that a little bit more in detail. So as we move on, what are our available resources? We have to have an assessment to know where we fall in that pendulum that we talked about of maybe we're not where we want to be, or maybe we're ahead of the game. But we need to know what we have available. And that starts by an evaluation of all these resources to know. And if you don't have someone internally that can do this evaluation, there's plenty of vendors out there you can pull in, plenty of resources. You can even lean on some of your state regulatory agencies, your inspectors. They can come in maybe and help talk to you about safety and security, and law enforcement can come in and talk. You can bring in these resources typically for free. They'll be more than happy to help you, or you can bring someone in like a vendor that does this. That's what their forte is going to college campuses and looking around. But you need to evaluate first, what do I have? And when we're talking about what do I have, here's a list that I've included. This is not an exhaustive list, but do you have physical security on campus? Are they full-time? Are they part-time? Is it contract? Is it a combination? What do you have? You need to assess that. And those security operational objectives, what do they do? What are their post orders? Do they foot patrol? Do they drive? Now, for the 16 colleges that we have, we typically have a combination. Again, the colleges are different, but we don't have housing on our campuses, so that's something else that we have to assess. Whereas the larger universities and colleges would have housing, their assessment would be different. And third bullet, the safety plans and programs. Doing that assessment of do we have, what do we need? And we'll talk more about that in here in just a little bit. Our internal committees, do we have the behavioral intervention teams, the crisis management teams? And if you do have those committees, what is security's role? Specifically, what's their input and their involvement in these committees? Also, an assessment should be done all your infrastructure equipment, everything related to security. As we mentioned, security cameras, door access controls, digital signage, mass notification, which is the next bullet. Do you have that in place? Is it an app? Is it the blue towers? Is it just a system that your IT staff has set up for mass email? What do you have? What is in place? And of course, that last one, that's the one that always, that one is the biggie. I saved it for last. It's the available budget. What budget do you have moving forward with all this, with all these assessments? What budget do you have available? Because it's going to be critically important to know what your budget numbers are going to be if you're going to have that vision of that short, medium, and long-term goals. You have to know what you have to, it's just like your family budget. What do I have to spend is what I get to buy. So that's some of the assessment there. And again, that's some of the ideals. It's not an exhaustive list, but it is some ideals on how to conduct an assessment and what to look for. A case study for me is when I worked at Bluegrass, and that's one of our 16 colleges. I was there before I took my role at the administrative offices at KCTCS. They're the second largest of the 16. At the time, they had a total enrollment of about 13,000 students. And here's something important to remember when we're doing the assessment. 3 of the campuses were right in Lexington, which is a densely populated area of central Kentucky, 300,000 in the county, so it's kind of large. One of the main campuses for us was located right in the middle of University of Kentucky, right in the heart. We were right in the middle. But we also had 3 regional campus sites in neighboring counties. One was 60 miles away from Lexington, but was part of Bluegrass. And for all of that, when I started, it was a team of 1. It was me. I was it. And we had no security cameras in place. We had no door access controls anywhere. We had security alarms and fire alarms, but that was basically it. So you have to start building from there. There was our assessment. When I first came in, that was it. It was me. And then I had to figure out what am I going to do moving forward. And again, here's another example. On the left-hand side, you'll see in the orange box is one of Bluegrass's rural or urban settings in the heart of downtown Lexington. And there it is amongst all kinds of housing near Rupp Arena downtown, where they have basketball games, bustling downtown. They've got all kinds of industry right up the road. So that versus the picture on the right, which is one of the rural campuses of Bluegrass, where there's a few houses to the south, some light industry over to the east, and basically in the middle of farmland. So when we're doing an assessment, even though we're going to look at big picture and assessment, and there's certain things we're going to look at for every campus, you still have to consider one is going to be vastly different from another, and that will change some of the things as you get down deep into your assessment. So let's move on to the second point. The second of 4 are safety plans and programs. And these are critically important because not only do they prepare you for your critical incidents, but they're required in some cases by various regulatory agencies. For the system office, we have an emergency operations plan, a template that was sent to all 16 colleges, and then one for the system office to start building on, which began in 2017, which was before I got here, but a template was put out. The emergency operations plan is all encompassing. It is the one plan that I'm trying to push out. Within that, as the second bullet here, another plan and program that's very important that we're kind of being force-fed right now is the continuity of operations plan. As we have dealt with COVID in the past year, you're doing what a COOP would be considered, what it would include, what you're doing, working from home, working remotely, even having this conference virtually. These are plans. The COOP plan is basically something, what happens if we can't get in our building? How do we continue our business operations if we can't be in our building? What do we do? Again, we found out over the past year what we do. We've kind of been forced into this. Businesses in the private sector, they call it business continuity. For us in the college, we follow the guidelines here at KCTCS with FEMA and kind of their verbiage, so we call it a COOP. So that'll be another plan we talk about. The CLARI Act requirements, all the plans and programs related to CLARI Act. Again, you get into this, it talks about crime data, annual security reports, the ability to notify your timely warnings to your college community during a crisis event. So we'll touch on that, as well as our EHS, our environmental health and safety programs. So let's go into each one just a little deeper. The emergency operations plan, as I noted, is the comprehensive document. It is for us. It is, and when I reach out to the 16 colleges, they all have this emergency operations plan, and everything is to go in this plan. And it talks about specific tactical objectives and emergency action plans included within it. And for instance, for a bomb threat, if you go into our EOP in the bomb threat section, you'll get a checklist of what you need to do, forms that need to be filled out, the questions you should ask if it's, for instance, a bomb threat over the phone, who to notify as soon as you get the report, whether it be your president or administrative or presidential team, or do you immediately call 911? Where's the decisions? So these plans have all these tactical informations included within it. Active shooters, weather. In Kentucky, weather is our #1 issue as far as dealing with emergencies. Tornado season, floods, winter weather, something that in Kentucky, and probably like many of you, you experience it. It happens every year. You can plan on it. So this EOP has all that in it. It's the one document that everything else will go into. The second plan we're talking about is the continuity operations plan. And as we address, much like a business plan, it's how will we conduct our critical operations under a broad range of circumstances. It addresses emergencies from all hazards approach, which means it addresses emergencies from all the possible things that could happen that we just discussed: weather, fire in your building, an active shooter where you're pulled out of your building for a while, COVID that we are just dealing with. This continuity plan it's a very, very deep plan, and it is included as an annex within your EOP for the KCTCS. Takes a while to develop too, and we'll talk about that. The third plan and program of 4 that we're going to discuss deals with the Jean Clary Act. And for those of you, most of you have probably heard of this or familiar with the Clary Act. Many of your security and operations people are certainly familiar with it. It's those actions that require all colleges to do a variety of things. That includes publishing an annual security report that discloses crime data, security information. It includes training. It includes a crime log. It includes several items, and which I have listed here. These are critically important to keep up with and to have control over, and plans and programs for that are reviewed regularly, because these are the ones that will hit you in the pocketbook. If you're ultimately, this act is to ensure the safety and security of your college campus and the community. That is ultimately required, the overall intent. And if colleges fall short of this, there's hefty fines that can go into several thousands of dollars per incident per day. So this one has quite a price tag for those that don't report these crimes or these as you see, there's sexual assault. It goes into a lot of different areas, and the handbook that your people that manage this at your college, the handbook, the latest edition is 2016, and it's over 200 pages deep. There's fine lines on how to interpret. So for one person to manage this is quite a task, quite a chore. This is best approached by a committee or members that are familiar with your programs and plans that relate to Clery. I would highly recommend that you reach out in that handbook, look at it. It has contact numbers there. If there are any questions, there seems to be always questions, even from the college, the 16 colleges. There's always questions because it is to try to define what is a crime sometimes is tricky, and you need that handbook. And I will also add, with the changes on the federal level, administrative changes, be on the lookout for changes in Title IX. So keeping up with those Title IX changes, it will really react differently. There's a possibility that a lot of this that was implemented in 2017 is going to be overturned and sent back to the way it was prior. So again, having these are critically important, and staying on top of it is critically important. And the fourth plan that I've noted here that really jumps out is related to the environmental health and safety aspects of your college campuses. Typically, you're going to see these related to a lot of OSHA standards, and institutions are required to maintain many of these EHS documents. And it's not limited to just hazard communication, which is chemicals. How do you handle hazardous chemicals on your campus? Everything from training to disposal, documentation of accidents. And then the bloodborne pathogens, again, another plan and program that's a standalone. The chemical hygiene plan, your labs, your labs have to have a plan. And typically these three plans merge together. And I will tell you this, Kentucky is an OSHA state. And that means we have OSHA at the state capitol, and in Frankfort, basically, we have a state, a Kentucky OSHA, but we also have the federal OSHA. But when we have inspections come out, it's from Frankfort, it's state inspectors. And in my experiences and with the experiences with the colleges, these inspectors will come out for a variety of reasons. Typically, it's a complaint or it's an accident. They just typically don't just show up, but it's normally on a complaint or accident. But when they do come out to look at something, they can look at everything. I mean, they don't have to limit their scope to just the single incident or the single complaint. But one of the things that I've found out historically when they come on site, the inspectors, the first thing they're going to want to see is your written programs. The first thing they do is sit down and go over your programs. They want to make sure they're thorough and complete, that they're up to date, that they've been trained. They're going to look at these documents first, and they could spend an entire day prior to going out and doing anything just looking at documents. So we talked about the regulatory requirements from Clery on our programs. This is also part of it. And again, I would challenge you that if you've got an overall emergency operations plan like we do at KCTCS, have all these plans as annexes within the plan. It's very difficult to chase down. How many we talked about now? We've talked about 7 or 8 plans, and there's many more. But it's very difficult to chase down individual plans. It's easier to maintain under one, and that's how I've approached it with KCTCS. And it's a good system of trying to organize all your documents into one. Okay. So the third of the 4 topics I want to hit, it involves infrastructure management. Now, we've hit on them, a little hit and miss here. We've talked about how do we assess? We need to assess what we have. This infrastructure management, it might be easy to manage. You may not have any of it. You may have, so that's easy to manage, right? You've got nothing. You're starting out. Well, here's some things to consider. It's a critical component when assessing safety measures. These systems are really put in place to create a redundancy. And in emergency management, that's a big key, is redundancy, those layers of safety. So what we want to consider the importance of, let's talk about security cameras. Let's talk about access controls, the little cards that a lot of us have when we want to swipe to get in. Let's talk about security and fire systems. And then we'll touch on mass notification systems. So security cameras are great because they can deter crime just by being in place, putting the signage out. That right there alone, if you think of your house, you got a sign out there that says I got a home security system. More or less, more often than not, the person that's going to try to rob a house is going to move to the next without the sign, whether you have it or not. But the cameras are great, and now they're cloud-based, which makes your IT people happy because it's less servers in an IT closet. So that infrastructure management with the security cameras was a big deal for me because it was the first thing I wanted to add. I may not have a person there that can sit and watch it, but at least I have that footage that I can go back to if there's been a crime committed. Let's talk about access control doors. What I looked at was none of our buildings had anything. They had regular door locks. Having those door access control, I can assign people badges, and then if I don't want a certain individual in the building, we'll say a former employee that had a badge but went out on bad terms and maybe threatened someone. We've had that. I can just key it in and they're locked out. And identifying is first those exits, but then looking at what are your high and medium secure areas within the building, those interior doors such as IT server rooms and that business office entrance. That might be an area where you want to include a card reader. Let's talk about security systems. My point is, if we're going to build a new building, a campus building, which it's becoming fewer and fewer, it's kind of more rare now, but if we build a new building, even if I know I'm going to have security there 24/7, I still want a security system. So that doesn't mean 2 years from now, 3 years from now, may have to cut that security overnight, may have to save that money from midnight to 6 a.m. so I can set that security alarm and the building is safe. And then also, let's assess our fire systems. Now, most of you, I'm sure, you're required to have, these buildings are required to have a fire alarm system. But what are the capabilities? When you're doing assessment, what are the capabilities? And I've included a picture of ours here at the system office in Versailles. This has a capability of a PA system throughout the building. It's kind of handy. You can see I've got my plans there, and during a fire alarm, I can go look and see where it's at. And then when I shut it off, I can make announcements. I can talk to everyone in the building. So some even have the capability of sending emails when they activate. So that's kind of nice. So with your infrastructure, understand what do I have, again, during the assessment, and start thinking about these security cameras. They come with big price tags. These door access controls, they come with big price tags, and there's maintenance as you go moving forward. Licensing for certain software. Stuff tears up, they have to be replaced. Cameras tear up. So we look at this infrastructure and go, okay, we've got security cameras, but what if they're 20 years old? What if you can't even look back 5 minutes to see what happened in a certain area? You look at this and say, how important is this infrastructure management? And the mass notification component. Again, a very critical part of not only the safety, but of compliance. And I'll give you, for instance, here, Clary Act that we just talked about. We said it had several different components. If you remember that list I showed you, one of the components talks about the requirement of the college campus to send a timely warning to the college community in the event of a threat on campus, an ongoing threat on campus. You need that ability to send out something to everyone, students, faculty, staff, about that fast. It's critically important. It's also a requirement. Now, a lot of colleges do it a different way. For KCTCS, we've got an app, and I can set off not only a notification for this building, but I can send it out for any of the 16 colleges any of the 70 facilities within the 16 colleges, just like that. It's very, very handy to have. If the colleges are in the middle of an incident, they may not have that opportunity to set something up, set it off, so I'm allowed to do it. Having that ability to send that mass notification can come in multiple ways. Emails, the blue tower emergencies, hitting that. But it's mainly something that's IT driven, it's app driven, it's what we have what's called Snap. For our platform, we've got multiple ways to set off the mass notification. We've got multiple people that have that capability of sending it out. That's critically important, because if you've got two people, I got so-and-so and so-and-so set off the mass notification. What if those two people are on vacation and you got nobody? And again, that happened to us one time years ago, is that the notification went out too slow and it hit the newspapers. This is critically important no matter what you choose, and there's plenty of vendors out there that can help you make those decisions. It's just you work with your IT staff, see what's best, talk to the other colleges. What are they using? What's KCTCS using? What's UK? What's UT? Who's using what? And it's great to get those references. If you've already got something in place, always look for something new, better. What are the students? What does an email get the student's attention, or does a text message? Does a text message get a student's attention versus a push notification on the screen? What's the best? Always look for a better way to reinvent the wheel, I guess. Always look for that. So that wraps up our infrastructure management. Let's go to our fourth and final part, the planning. We talked about short, medium, and long-term planning, and it's critically important. Enhancing the safety and security of any college is continuous cycle. You see that cycle there. You got to stay flexible. You really have to stay up to date with technology. You have to reach out to those colleges and see what the best practices are. What are they doing? It's essential. When we talk about short-term planning, this is the approach I took. I considered this. Can we do things on our web pages? Can I put that security presence out there on a web page? Something robust. We can all partner with our local first responders, our fire, police, EMS, emergency management officials. We can always talk to them, reach out to them, and include them in our planning, include them in our emergency operations plan. Create that internal crisis management team, multidisciplinary approach. Pull somebody from each department. You'd be surprised. For those that tell you, well, I don't know anything about safety and security, more times than not, when you can bring someone into that meeting with that attitude, they're going to add something to your committee. They're going to have a good idea. They're looking at it from the outside instead of being involved. So consider that. Also short term, that behavioral intervention team, that front end to assess those threats on campus, and include within that a threat assessment team. Use your student services for that outreach, getting that information out. Again, a multidisciplinary approach. Do those surveys, student, faculty, and staff. Now, honestly, if you get a 20% return, that's probably good. You're not going to get, but engage them. Make them talk about safety. At least do a survey monkey or whatever you choose to reach out. Those are good short-term goals. And you know what? All the ones I discussed, you know how much they cost? All that together, zero cost, just a little bit of your time. Reach out there. Again, spend some time getting people together. That's good short-term. And best of all, it doesn't hit your budget. So let's talk about now medium terms. Medium term range, medium planning, we're talking about maybe 12 to 18 months. What we're talking there is that development and that creation and that ongoing, that working document of that emergency operations plan, that continuity operations plan, that EHS plan, and that pandemic plan now, right? Yeah. So having all that under that EOP, it takes a long time to start moving that information. It takes a long time to gather, put everything, even though you can tell me what you did over the past year with COVID, do you have it in writing? That's your continuity plan. Do you have it put down? Did you talk about it after the fact? What were lessons learned? That's your continuity plan, and it goes within that EOP. Training, always critical. You need to have a training calendar for each campus. the entire campus. You can separate the training into that for entire campus, those for the maintenance and operations or security, the individual divisions and departments. For me, every May, in my previous employer, every May, it was hazard communications to all the M&O staff, the maintenance and operations staff. That's an approach. It's coming in May. And I would strongly recommend that you use the HC, the Homeland Security Exercise and Evaluation Program. And honestly, basically what that is, it's a program through, again, Homeland Security, and it's a stair-step approach on how you're going to train. You're going to crawl before you walk before you run. So it's a stair-step approach. Instead of just jumping out to, we're going to have a full-scale exercise. The building's going to be on fire. We're going to bring the fire department, the police department. We're going to bring everybody here. The best approach is to back it up maybe a little and start with a tabletop and then move up, okay? So follow that. And again, this is all things that can be done and planned and start moving on easily within a year to 18 months. Then we go beyond that. Some long-term planning. And that's where you go with the infrastructure enhancement and updates. What's the cost? What's the replacement timelines? Can I afford cameras at all campuses all at once, or do I need to do a little bit of camera and then a little bit of door access? And then the next physical year, a little bit more camera, a little bit more door access, or hiring another security, physical security. The manpower assessments. Can you add that full-time person in the upcoming physical years? Do I need to just make it contract? Do I need to do a mix? So that's where you're talking about things that are long-term, because they'll hit multiple budget cycles, basically, is what they're going to do. So recapped, we talked about that those four things. The first being an assessment. What do you have? What do you need? The next being understanding all those regulatory requirements, creating those safety plans and programs and keeping up with them, managing them. And that third thing about the critical infrastructure, how to manage all that stuff, that hardware at your campuses. And then, as important as anything else, blending all of that into your vision. And don't put this on one individual. Like I said, make it a committee thing for your vision to short, medium, long-term planning. Make this a group effort. Commit to this from every department. Commit from this. To wrap this all up, again, as I started with this presentation, I'm asking you to take hopefully just a little bit away from this, that you can take something back to your campus. And if you do, please let me know. I would love to hear what you're doing at your campus locations. I would love to know what's happening and what's working for you. Or maybe you have a question for me. What are you doing, Todd? I mean, we're shoestring budget too, just like everybody else. What are you guys doing? So I would love to hear it. And once again, I would really like to thank all those involved with this presentation for giving me that opportunity. It's been a real honor just to be able to speak. I wish I could see you. I wish I could be there with you. Maybe I can. If you'll invite me back next time, we'll sit there and look at each other and we'll discuss and we'll have a good conversation. But always feel free to reach out and contact me. Thank you so much.